It is time for the Anime Watch Club. This week we're talking about Death Parade. I'm your host Tyler, joined with my co-hosts Doug and Sean in our conquest to get through our anime backlogs. Gentlemen, welcome to another episode.
Boys are back in town.
The boys are indeed back and ready to
We're back.
talk about some mid-grade anime, some fucking chronic anime, some crippy anime. That's what I was trying to think of.
Some Reggie.
Yeah, probably more Reggie, right? But
that not good shit.
Yeah, not gas at all.
Like it does the job, but you want better shit.
Yeah. So we watched Death Parade in our thing because I guess the concept of it sounded super interesting.
It really did at first,
but it's let's say its delivery didn't bring out its full potential.
So much more that could have been brought out of it.
There's a lot of pandering, I think.
It's one of those like where you can watch those episodes and then you just forget about it and you can move on because there's a new one.
Nothing tied together.
Yeah, like they make it. They set it up like it's going to tie. Yeah, like tie in, and then it just.
Well, I think it did, but just very minimally.
Yeah, but it makes it seem like it's gonna be like pay attention because it's gonna come up later.
Yeah,
very forgettable.
But I feel like only the first one really like didn't do anything other than just explain.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about that. Yeah. When we get there.
Mm-hmm. It's probably just a little synopsis of it. So basically, the bartender, his name is Dekium. He is in charge of determining whether they are sent into the void or reincarnated, which is like their version of heaven and hell.
Yeah. So they're pretty much in a purgatory state.
Yeah, and so the bar is like purgatory, like Doug said, and Dekium is in charge of judging those people because he is what they call an arbiter. And so how they do that is through, basically, they do like a roulette, and then it picks games for them to play.
And the games are kind of mindfucks for the two players because they're told that whoever wins the game, or like they have to play the game in order to get out of there.
Yeah, because everyone pretty much sees that they're trapped in the bar and they can't get out. So the whole concept behind that as well is that they don't remember how they die. And every episode pretty much has the same theme that as they play the game, they get more memories along the way.
And while they're playing the game, Deki explains that like they don't actually have to play the game and win or lose or anything like that. But Deki explains that throughout the game, like you said, it brings their memories back. And what it's actually doing is trying to pretty much show like their soul and their actions as humans and how they're reacting to the situations.
Yeah,
and so
basically,
the games are set to like pin you against each other.
Yeah,
so it's always two people. I think in one instance there was three where Dekium had to join, but most cases there's two. And you're playing, like Tyler said, it's pretty much like you either play and you win, or else there's terminal consequences.
Yeah. And
because at this point in the game, they don't know they're dead.
Yeah.
No one knows they're dead when they start the game.
Yeah, and Deki explains that it's just all psychological, and then he eventually decides who goes to the void and who goes to heaven.
That's reincarnation.
Be a reincarnation through their actions and how they react to everything going on and their memories coming back. It's not actually through the game.
Mm-hmm. And basically, with the games, is they sort of also present it as it's almost like you would think it's reality, so he kind of makes it seem like he's almost like a serial killer in a way, because it shows like that room with the dummies, and it pushes that they're like, well, if we don't do it, are you gonna kill us?
It's like a less intense version of Saul.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, pretty much. That's probably the best way.
It's all psychological.
Yeah, like
the thing about the arbiters too is that they're not human, so they don't have any human reaction or emotion to anything that happens throughout the game.
Yeah,
they kind of just sit there and watch.
Yeah, and they have the ability to like change the game to go in someone else's favor, just to help pin someone else against each other.
Like
because I think
if it's going too smooth, they can basically do it.
Yeah, the main thing they're trying to get is the deepest darkest depths of the person's soul. They want to pin you against the other player so they can see your true nature at its worst.
Yeah, to see how you react when you're basically up against the wall. Is the way I kind of looked at it.
Again, the concept was like really cool, and then after the first episode, I was like intrigued.
Yeah,
but then they kind of just like afterwards.
And so I think the best way to kind of go with it is to explain some of the games, because they are like basic games. They're like pretty much what you would find in a bar.
Yeah, you got darts, billiards.
Yeah, we had bowling. There was an arcade one. Trying to think what the other ones were.
Dude, I forgot about the arcade one. Actually.
Yeah, the arcade one is the plastic surgery girl.
No, that was bowling.
Oh, was it bowling? Maybe it is bowling. I don't know, dude. So like the problem with this show as well is that it seems like everything ran together. I don't know if you guys felt like that.
Yeah, but there wasn't any. For me personally, there wasn't like any. Some episodes had a good amount of depth, and then other episodes kind of just felt like they dragged on.
We're bowling, and then it's over.
Yeah.
And you're okay.
I actually like the bowling one,
the
like a decent amount, but like the arcade one, for instance, I thought was like the worst episode for sure.
Yeah, I liked all of them, honestly.
I mean,
granted, it wasn't aspects. Like the show. I felt it didn't have a whole lot of depth to it. You know, it was very like the first episode really explained what the next 10 were going to be. Mm-hmm. And it was just different scenarios of the same thing.
It's just,
I enjoyed the stories and the games, you know, digging into people's backstories, how they got there, their griefs, their emotions. Like it.
Listen, I like it. I liked it. But I felt like there was just so much fucking more.
Okay, so this
could have come from it.
This is how I'm gonna say, like, it's like they gave you a taste of it. You know, like having like a beer flight. It's like having one of those, but then being like, I don't know which one I want. And it seemed like they did that with every game. It's like they tried to make it seem like they had these severe reasons for being there. Because I know part of the reason was they both like died at the same time type thing. So you never really knew if they died like together or if it was like a separate thing. And they tried to make it seem like it can go that route. And then it seems like they just fell off of that.
I think another thing for me was there's so many other characters in there that I wanted to know more about. That I kind of just didn't learn about.
Yeah, and it's pretty much like everyone's like a one-off because you know it's going to get resolved by the end of the episode, pretty much.
Like Oculus, I thought Oculus was cool as fuck. Like he was essentially the god of that whole realm. Yeah, and he only really had screen time like maybe 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah, meanwhile he's playing fucking Galaxy Pool.
Like,
what the pretty dope.
What is he doing up there?
But yeah, I would have liked to know more about Ginty. I feel like they only threw him in there just to give you the sense of what another Arbiter does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the whole point of Ginty, like you said, was that, and like then also to show that like Deki,
the contrast.
Deki actually had like emotions towards these people's judgments, and then
we find out later in the story he's implanted with like human emotions.
Yeah, so
and that's why he tries to kind of.
Yeah. Ginty's just there essentially to show that contrast, but I think Ginty was a pretty cool character, and he also had a pretty fucking sweet little black cat. So you know that speaks to me.
Yeah, no, he was one of my favorites at first too.
Just like
it's like okay, you're just a useless character now, just to kind of show contrast.
Yeah, so to kind of like I guess to like reel it back on track. So basically, with the Arbiters, like Sean said, is that they're dummies that are basically just placed to judge people. Because the whole logic is that they can't have humans judge other humans. Because, like, so with Arbiters, they haven't experienced life or death, so they can have, like, a third-party view of it. And then do that judgment, because they don't have the emotions to care. And so what happens is one of them implants Dekium with emotions, because she feels like the way that they judge people isn't right. Because
Nona?
Yeah, Nona. Nona feels that because she's basically in charge of the Arbiters, and then you said his name, but I always forget his name.
Ginty.
Yeah, Ginty. So Ginty is in charge of like he's like the quote unquote god.
That's Oculus.
Oculus. I'm sorry. Oculus is the quote unquote god of the like realm, basically. Mm-hmm. And then Nona manages the arbiters, and then Nona implants memories into Decium to like basically change up the way they do things.
Yeah.
And it seems like part of it, I think, why she did that is because there is a girl that comes to the bar that he essentially can't judge because she remembers her death, and her name is Chiyuki, and you find out that later. She basically goes with no name.
You kind of find out all that at the end anyways.
Yeah, and that comes out
She's kind of just there in the beginning.
She's there at the beginning, and essentially Nona has assigned her to help Decium with the judgment as an assistant.
Yeah, and it should be noted that, you know, like all the arbiters have like a cross in their eyes.
Yeah.
It kind of, you know, signifies like what they are, and like each of these actual otherworldly characters do. Like Oculus has like snake eyes almost. And this girl who we later learn is Chiyuki just has regular plain human eyes.
I was about to say that also. You could tell Chiyuki. You could also tell Chiyuki was a human because the way she was reacting to the judgment.
She had emotions.
Yeah, compared to Deki. You know, where Deki's kind of just like,
and so like his version that we see is pretty much like the experiment of like Decium reacting to these situations, and then her trying to like balance him out of like how he acts towards certain things because he doesn't understand emotions at that point. So, you know, kind of like, you know, when we watch Violet Evergarden, it's kind of like the same thing, kind of like learning the emotions through that.
Right.
And so then you just, you know, you pretty much have like these games where they play, and then just you pretty much just find out the darker parts of their life, and then he sends them off to the next place.
I think the only thing other than that, really story-wise, is just Chiyuki being the human, and then you finding out that, you know, about her backstory, and then of course the ending where she's finally sent off. I think we covered just about almost everything already.
Well,
story-wise,
I mean, there's a little more.
We can break it down a little bit more. Like you could kind of tell, like Decium feels a certain type of way with some of these situations. Because he's only supposed to see things one way, but because of those human emotions he has, you know, when like in the video game one where it's the mom with multiple kids, and she's like the TV star against the nerdy kid who ended up, you know, offing himself, jumping out a window, and you know when they break down towards the end of the game, Decium. Like he grabs his heart because he's feeling pain for them, even though he still sends them both to hell. I'm pretty sure. But
you can see more and more throughout each episode, though. Also, it's becoming more of an internal battle for him to rightfully judge.
I would say that it's less about. So it kind of sets itself up that it's really going to be about the games and about the people in the games, but you find out kind of later that it's more about Decium. And kind of his internal struggle to be like, you know, he's an arbiter. He'll never be anything else but that. And that's pretty much where he's going to be. And seeing like him grow from that so he can better judge people.
Yo, can we talk about the bellboy who is destined in this fucking realm to just be a bellboy?
Yeah, dude. That's the true. That's the true hell, bro.
Like all this man does is fucking.
There's like
on the elevator.
What floor do you want to go on?
Yeah, and then he finally gets to use a key. Finally, that was probably the fucking highlight of his entire fucking life.
It had me rolling, and like all this guy does is let people on the elevator.
He's like, "Situesimas." I'm like, "Fucking hell, dude."
And he's just like, "Okay."
Okay.
We also talk about how pointless Castro was.
Yeah, I got it.
She was the one who was. It was early on in the series when Nona went to go to like that almost like
Oh, you're talking about the lady that looks over all the deaths in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah,
she was there for like 1 second, and I think the only point of her being in the show was to say there's too many people dying.
Okay, so let's tie this all in real quick now that we're talking about it. So, because she's the one who brings up that like there's too many people dying at, you know, more than usual. And like you said, Death Note and Death Parade were made by the same studio.
Yeah, so Madhouse produced both, and then that's kind of where it ties in a little bit of it. They have like a side story of it.
I feel like that was literally there just to like kind of tie that in.
Light Yagami's
Yeah,
fucking it up for Deckham.
In a way, it's kind of similar because, like, Light Yagami is the same way to where, he's judging people based on things, and he's like, but I'm good, and they say that he's a criminal type thing like that. So it's similar in probably that regard, and that's kind of where they show, like, it's clearly Light, to where they make basically this fangirl choose between, like, the guy that she's in love with and Light Yagami, like, from dying, and then they all go to hell, basically.
Is that what that picture was?
Yeah, so, like, in the monitor, that was him.
Really? I was curious. I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
That's, like, the main thing you'll hear about the upgrade.
It wasn't confirmed it was
It's
him,
not, but, like,
it looked exactly like
everyone
say it. I agree.
I
didn't know they did Death Note either. I didn't know it was the same company.
Well, dude, because I saw episode 11 and I'm like, yo, that looks exactly like Light. Whenever that one bitch is like, when he was like, you got to choose. What was it? Genti said that. He was like, you have to choose between your fucking.
Yeah, that's
either way, it was a good choice either way because they're both pieces of shit. I mean, Light Yagami, granted, he wasn't like fucking using and abusing, but he was playing God. So I mean, we'll save that for Death Note.
I was about to say he was essentially making himself a demigod. Like, let's be real here.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't see more apples sitting around.
I agree with Light's philosophy, and I'll stand by it. Fuck them criminals.
Yeah.
And then, so on top of them Nona going to the area where that lady sees all the deaths throughout the world, there's also the one realm you find where they compile the memories together and sent to Deki to be able to judge.
Yeah. So
what was the lady's name?
What was her name? Which one was it?
The one that wore the shit over her one eye, and she was an arbiter previously.
Oh, Quinn.
Oh, Quinn.
Yeah.
That's
she owned the realm that Deckham has. That's why it's called Quinn Deckham.
That's right.
Yeah. So Quinn. It shows Quinn's new job where she compiles all the memories for.
She basically like sorts through the memories of a person's life, and she's just fucking slammed with stuff.
It also shows she's a raging alcoholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're all dummies, so who gives a shit?
Who's judging here?
Yeah. We're really breaking it down. It's not about the death; it's about the alcoholism and your problem, Quinn.
The whole show just turns into a fucking intervention for Quinn.
Can I bring up a funny hypothetical?
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
So, wouldn't it have been funny if like Deckham had to judge L after he died?
Oh man, that'd been hype.
Dude, I think L would have seen right through him. L's so much smarter.
You just see the fucking gears turning in his head.
Dude, yeah, he makes Deckham play the game and sends him in the elevator.
He's like, yeah, can you help me in here? Like,
do you have any fucking snacks?
Yeah, do you have any potato chips?
He's like, I know that in a previous life that dummies can't ingest peanuts, and then it fucking implodes.
Yeah, where's all that fucking alcohol going, man?
That's true. I mean, I also I don't really see the point in having the alcohol because it's like, hey, play this game.
Yeah.
So what you get a little sip and then that's it.
They don't have internal organs to process the alcohol.
You made this man fucking learn how to be a bartender so he can fucking play games, play with dummies all day.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. They don't really explain
playing with dummies.
Yeah,
I feel like it's more of a loosening someone up.
I guess because it's just like a casual setting, and then it's
it's to make the people feel comfortable at first.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So I'm trying to think.
It's a beautiful Japanese garden walking up to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not much to talk about.
That's kind of where I was trying to wrap it because I mean, like I said, it's all about the games.
We can talk about Chiyuki the last 3 episodes, but that's pretty much it.
That's kind of what I was going to tie to. Yeah, so like I said, it's pretty much all about the games. The games play out, and then it's more about Dekium and then Chiyuki, which you find out later, and that kind of gets to the last couple episodes where you find out about her, and then that when she came to the bar, she remembered her life, so she was supposed to be judged. And what happens when you stay in basically this realm for too long, you start to fade away, and you turn into a dummy.
Yeah. Also, it says she was in Quindesum for like 4 months.
Yeah, so it's
Like
like
4 months after she passed.
yeah, it's like it's basically your like humans are supposed to be moved from that realm, and she pretty much like starts to crumble at her wrist, and then
Yeah.
that's when she finds out that she's no longer human. Like she knew that she was dead, but she thought she was still like in a human body.
They added little things
Yeah.
in Quindesum also to kind of make her start realizing it.
Hmm.
They like the roulette board. They turned it into
Hmm.
that one
Yeah,
book
from her
that
book. Yeah.
the book that she loved as a child and shit
Hmm.
like that. They made that the picture of it.
Yeah.
And then when they were playing the card game, each card for each player represented something from their past
Yeah,
life.
and so that goes to where there's another game. There's like a older lady because they're like it's time for you to be judged, and he's like I'll have to do it, and so this old lady comes down, and she was an illustrator if I remember right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was an
and
illustrator.
so the three of them play old maid together basically to
And
do
this
this
is the
thing.
one where I was saying Deckham actually joined the
Yeah,
game.
and because like they're like we can't play old maid with two people. I'm like I guess.
Uh,
I don't I don't really remember the rules of old maid, but I guess.
Yeah.
Never played it, but
Mhm.
whatever.
So then
And
they find out. So basically, these cards are imprinted with, I guess, essentially like moments from your life and like things that will remind you about your life.
trigger those memories.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then so like they're basically both getting those memories along the way and seeing it and of how like that the old lady she died of old age. And she kind of figures everything out because she sees a like an unpublished illustration that she did
Yeah.
and that she never finished. She was like, it only exists in my head.
And
And
then
then you
after
see the
that,
ice skates. So
yeah.
then Chiyuki has ice skates, and it kind of ends where she doesn't know what it means.
Yeah.
And
And we
of
should
course,
mention this
old
is
lady
like the
gets to
one
go.
time
Yeah.
one person comes to the bar instead of two.
Yeah, because like like they're trying. It's more for like Chiyuki is gonna be
Yeah,
Yeah,
judged.
this is
Because
like
the old
okay,
lady,
it's
the old
time
lady
for
is
her
probably
judgment.
like the purest fucking lady you've ever seen in your life.
Well, yeah,
And
because Deckham said like, hey Chiyuki, we have to judge you
yeah,
now.
or you're gonna fade away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then like I said, so part of me, I don't know if you guys felt this too. I don't know if I'm just fucked up. I probably am. But the old lady, did you think like after all that she was gonna get sent to hell?
I thought I thought she was, but only because Deckham has those human emotions, and I feel like he was drawn towards Chiyuki.
I was
You could
just
tell he was.
Well, I was just like, I meant like the old lady, like the like really like sweet old lady.
Well, yeah, but he had to pick. I thought he was going to have to pick between the two of them, and send
Oh,
one
okay, I got you now.
one
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
void and one to reincarnation. I thought
yeah.
he was going to send
I got you now.
Yuki to
He
reincarnation
can send
because he
both
liked
of them
Yuki.
to
Yeah, you can.
heaven or hell,
Yeah, you
like
can.
or
Oh yeah,
the void.
you're right.
Yeah,
That would have been funny if she went to hell.
that's what I thought, bro. I was like, oh, she's like the sweetest lady ever. And you know how like sometimes they make it seem like, oh,
Yeah.
like they had a good backstory, but actually they were terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be like,
After
oh
he
yeah,
sent-
she actually touched little boys, and then hell.
After he sends her to hell, fucking
Yeah.
Quindescent just fucking explodes like game over.
Yeah, Death Parade sponsored by Michael Bay. Yeah, so that kind of goes, and then like this is kind of where you get to the main. I would say honestly, this is probably the only real story of Death Parade.
Agreed.
So Nona kind of gets confronted, and they start talking about the whole reason why she did and gave Decium the emotions and everything like that. Why he kept Chiyuki around, and then she shows her whole backstory of like what led her up to her death.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what basically she was a figure skater. She always loved being she always liked figure skating, which was also from the book because I think the girl was like a figure skater, right? Not figure skater, but she ice skated.
Ice skating.
Yeah, she ice skated, so they got her like fucking ice skates. Then she became a figure skater because like became a fan of like all that, and basically like became a good competition figure skater. And then it's kind of that old tale of athlete gets hurt, changes their
And then
life,
her life is
basically
ruined.
miserable. Yeah, my life's over, and then mom kind of comes in, kind of like tries to console her, and she's like. She's like, oh, I loved when you ice skate, but the best thing I liked was you growing into like I think she was like a great woman. Yeah, great woman. And she's like, I'm not a great woman. And then you find out that Chiyuki actually committed suicide.
Yeah. And then also the last episode, Decim takes Chiyuki to the present world and shows her,
quote unquote.
quote unquote.
Quote unquote. I'm sorry, and kind of shows how like her mom is living and like how her suicide, how it created this world for her mother, where her mom's just in sorrow, and he's like, hey. I'm going to give you the option to bring you back to your present life. Nobody will remember that you died. Everybody will forget that ever happened. And then Chiyuki just couldn't bring herself to do it.
It's basically, so like the movie that he plays is like, her at like the shrine that like, so like a lot of Japanese families do like a shrine for their dead loved ones and stuff like that. So she pretty much like shows that, and then the whole experience like that of like, she's like, I'm sorry that I couldn't see your pain. And then she kind of realizes the same thing.
Calling herself a horrible mom.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
And then Chiyuki kind of realizes the same thing. Like, I'm sorry that, I couldn't tell you. And then that I didn't value my life, that I did this to you and stuff like that. And then, of course, Decim, like they said, is that he gives her the option to come back to life because he's like, I can reward that to people who are taken too early, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And like that. So she had the option, but it was in exchange for another person's life.
Yeah.
And so it got to that point to where she realized she couldn't do it because if she did, it would take like basically that everyone has someone that they care about, and they also have people that care about them who will be sad. And just like her mom, and so she couldn't bring herself to do that.
Yeah, she finally truly kind of accepts everything that happened. Yeah. And then Decim has like a true emotional breakdown right after that.
Actually crying, and you're like, something you thought he could never do.
Yeah, he ends up losing that arbiter cross in his eye. For a moment, it comes back, but that's when you could tell he's really showing his human emotions.
Yeah. That's really where the eyes are important, too.
Yeah, once Chiyuki said that, he fucking literally like was grabbing his heart, and then he starts screaming and crying, and then the cross in his eye goes out, and then literally the whole quote-unquote present world just fucking shatters in front of him.
Because if you think about it, it's really kind of a cruel way to judge someone, throw them into... that and then
but also that it kind of brings the whole suicide debacle up, like your own death is selfish to you and not thinking about your others, and that kind of shows Chiyuki like you got to accept what.
And I'd say that's probably, it is all like, I think a lot of the titles for the episodes are really important because of that. So it's called Suicide Tour is that episode, and so that's really like that, like it is like a really dark point in your life, and then they show the resolve from it. And that at the end, when he's kind of like walking her away, he's like, "Oh, did you enjoy your life?" And she's like, "Yeah, I fucking did. I fucking really did."
And then that he finally judges her, and then that kind of
they had their little. And
guess what, guys? She went straight to fucking hell.
Yeah, dude. Fuck that bitch.
That bitch went down.
It's why she went to hell? Because she didn't put out in that whole time.
Dude, what if the ending of the show was fucking Chiyuki goes down the elevator to hell and the Doomslayer's waiting for her?
Oh, God. The music starts playing.
Yeah, ripping terror.
Just kidding. She went to heaven.
Yeah.
But
As she should. She's pretty much balanced the whole thing. I mean, honestly, like, without her, I was like, I fucking probably wouldn't have liked it at all.
Yeah.
Because she was kind of like the main story, and I didn't realize that until about halfway.
No, you don't understand until you kind of get that Decim has emotions and she's there, and also
you're waiting for a twist, and you find out it's like a small thing in the background the whole time.
Yeah. There's one part in the series I thought she was pretty annoying, and that was when it was the officer and the kid with the bloody knife, and she's like, fucking don't do it, when he's trying after that whole debacle, and was like, dude, just let him do it. Fuck both of them.
But I mean, like, part of that is like a good part of it, because it's kind of like,
it is.
You're forcing these people into these situations, and then you're judging them based on that. And he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill him, and she's like, think about things. Use your fucking
Do it
brain.
for revenge.
Like, you think of all the good things you were actually trying to do. You're like, you were just trying to kill someone because they fucking basically assaulted your sister.
Yeah, but his whole thing was that the guy watched his sister get assaulted and did.
Well, that's what the officer, like, that's his part, is like, he's like, I wouldn't have been able to take revenge on these people if I, would have stopped your sister's thing. And he's like, well, but why? And it kind of like that morality of like, on like both ends, it's like, it's not good, but it's also like bad.
You know what the most annoying thing about that episode was? You didn't see where they went.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think it's obvious they both went to hell, but I wanted the satisfaction of seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my biggest gripe is about the series is I wanted to see more of the other characters.
I think more of the interesting one, like the interesting stories that they had, and less of like the other ones, because it's like some are just one-offs, and you're like,
episode
they didn't really give me that much.
Like I was saying, like that episode I really liked between the two people who were murderers.
Yeah.
Like the bowling one was pretty good actually. I thought, other than the whole like plastic surgery shit. But but other than that, like I didn't really get too enticed in the other people's
like
stories.
The game, yeah. So I mean, I like the darts one just because they had like more stakes, and then it was like it had a lot of drama on it.
Well, the darts was the thing that really introduced you to it.
And then I liked the arcade one for her backstory, but then I kind of stopped caring halfway.
I hated that episode.
I just liked her. I liked her backstory of like the kids and stuff like that. I was like, oh, so it's gonna get like, like really deep, and then it kind of just faded out. So I was kind of iffy at that, but I like that part of it, of like, basically them having like the trauma in their lives, and them, kind of showing of like what they've been through and what led them to that point.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, showing that people have redeeming qualities because of like the things that have happened to them. Like she's not just a bitch, basically.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of gets explained for everybody in each episode.
Yeah, that's like, I like that. I like those parts of that, but then it just seemed like there wasn't enough, and that's probably my only complaint with it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the point of the show. Maybe it's, And
then I think like at the end, I think that's when you get the big, like, well, this is why they do everything. This is how people should be treated and like, judged basically.
Mm-hmm.
And like kind of all that, and then they kind of give like that little bit of like romantic fucking thing between them, even though it's like, I'm still the bartender here and you're whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, they only made it 12 episodes for a reason.
But I mean, it makes sense. They could have focused on the more dramatic ones.
Yeah, I think I could have done without the whole Ginty and his judgment part.
Twister.
Yeah, extreme Twister with a fucking
fangirl, basically a BTS stan.
Yeah, I was about to say K-pop singer and a fucking fangirl who's talking about her panties and shit.
Yeah.
And the most annoying thing is after that, it's like she's just there. There's no judgment on her, and he's gone.
Yeah, he's like
they don't explain anything other than, and then Ginty's just a dick to him, which I'm 100% on board with.
Yeah, I appreciated every bit of that.
Hey, I mean, there is one part.
I saw no point in it.
There is one part that, if you actually cared about that, when they're like going into the void and their little mannequin hands intertwine.
I mean, that was the one, I guess, redeeming quality
it's
of
like
it. But
he got over his like superficial judgment of like women, and then they're like, she really does care for me, but also I didn't really care.
No,
I was like, oh, so that's what they were going at, and I was like, I don't care.
My favorite part was Ginty treating them like shit, because everybody needs a Ginty in their life. Let's be real.
Hey, you get a little bit of fan service from the Twister, and you realize that bitch has a giant mouth, and you're like,
dude, she was talking about like she had to pee the whole time and like all this other bullshit, and Ginty's just like, shut the fuck up and play the game. Like, shut up, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think final ratings, I would say.
Yeah, I want you guys to go first.
What? You can't be too mean, Sean.
I'll give it a 6. I'll say.
Yeah,
I didn't hate it, but it wasn't like top tier for me.
I was gonna say 5.5 for
I'm
me.
probably like a 5.5, 6 as well. Because I think
I'll bounce it between 5.5 and 6. Okay, like because there's a lot of things I did like about it, but I think there's just way too much like
it's just there could have been
touched
more.
on. Yeah,
There could have been more, and they could have
So
focused
much-
more on that rather than the
potential.
judgment shit. And it's like, it's almost like they were trying to like rush them through because, like you said, is like there were so many people who were dying. It was like they were in the fucking weeds.
Essentially,
They're just like they're like fucking go, push him out. I don't give a fuck. Hell, gone.
But it really did have a lot of potential
Yeah.
to be something more than what it was. I just think they could have added so much more to it. At least made it like a 24 episode banger, and then I feel like a lot more things would have been.
Yeah, I would agree
more
with that.
people would have been touched up on, and it could still be one season and be like, okay, we're good. This is touched up on though.
Yeah, they could have like cliffhangered it, gone to a
Because,
2-season,
like,
and then wrapped it
Because
up.
I was gonna bring up Banana Fish. Like Banana Fish was extremely fast, but like they had enough episodes to touch up on almost
100%.
every single thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
It went full circle.
Mm-hmm.
But
I
this
feel
one,
like
it just feels like
I think giving
you
people
got
like
you got
2
the
episodes,
first part of the story, and then now it's like okay, because
Yeah.
even at the end, it's like they go right
It's
back
like-
to it.
yeah, it's like
and
not
it's like
satisfying.
okay, he judged the one he had trouble judging, and I mean, sure, that was good. That was a nice little
Yeah, and,
arc,
like,
but
now
I
he
feel like
has
that's not an
emotions.
ender, you know.
It wasn't. I didn't feel like the show ended.
it's like
Maybe it didn't, but
it's kind of like
This shit was made in 2015, if I remember
Well,
correctly.
it is.
So
maybe
like,
it wasn't meant to, is what I meant to say.
I mean,
Yeah.
there is probably more. It's probably just one of those anime things to where they get cut off at 12, and then
hmm
it doesn't boost sales, so they cut it. So, yeah, I think the only problem with that is just at the end, it's like I said, the main story is pretty much about Dekium and then Chiyuki.
Chuki, yeah.
So like it's like at the end you get like Chiyuki's resolution, right? But then Dekium, it's like, well, he's got emotion. He's like, welcome back to the bar, and that's it.
Yeah, there's no
And it's
resolve.
like you don't get like a
He's
good,
wearing a smile
yeah.
at the end. That's
It's-
it. That's the only difference.
You just don't really get like a
He's wearing a
solid
smile,
solution.
but he's wearing a smile, but he still has to judge these people with human emotion, which is like the whole point. Like,
hmm
That's
You know
kind of
what I
where they bring up of like like it. That's a terrible thing to basically do to the arbiters because they're
yeah,
like
and they're still forcing him to fucking do it. but,
yeah,
like,
they're forcing him to feel, but it's like, but you want to feel. You don't want to have no feelings, right? And it kind of goes with that whole thing, and that's kind of where I would wrap it up.
Yeah. 5.5, between a 5.5 and a 6. I feel like if it was a 24 episode banger, it could have easily been a 7 or an 8.
A lot of things I land at like 6, and then as it starts kind of wrapping up, I start adding points onto things.
hmm
A lot, so it'll be
Agreed.
like I'm either like usually like a 6 or a 7 for most things, and then as like I get to that ending and be like, oh shit, that was a banger. That's a solid 8 or 9.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
so
Because then, because if you have a true ending to a show, you could be like,
Mhm.
after it ends, you could be like, holy shit,
Yeah.
this was like that way better, or
Yeah.
like whatever, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But it didn't really feel like there was a true ending.
yeah, it's just like you kind of like generic, I guess, in a way, and then kind of like, well, you're like, oh yeah, it was gonna happen like that. And the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, where's the twist? Where's the twist? Where's the twist? I'm like, there's not a twist.
Dude, especially when they showed Light and
Yeah,
it kind of
bro.
tied into fucking Death Note shit. Like, I thought there was, whatever, I'm going to stop.
So yeah,
Did we want to talk about our picks for the next round?
yeah. So we can do that if we can.
I got
So
time.
well, I was gonna do. I mean, we can just name them because we're gonna do like a separate like rolling video for it. I think would be good.
So next video we're gonna do is Trigun. That'll
Yeah.
be
Trigun
the
is
next
our
2
next.
weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah, Trigun is going to be the last wrap up of our first round of picks.
Yep, and
Yeah. So
that'll
This-
wrap it up for this episode of the Anime Watch Club. Doug, please talk about the anime that we're going to talk about next week. We're actually not going to talk about.
we're gonna talk about fucking All Might. I love All Might, and we're gonna go through his whole backstory, how he was a kid and a baby, and then how he just ends up fucking almost dying himself. That's all I got. I don't know. You put me on the spot. I wasn't thinking about it.
I was like, I think he's got one, but I'm not sure.
No, I wasn't prepared this time. We'll go into all fucking a million episodes of One Piece. Fuck it.
Yeah, we're gonna inject One Piece straight into our veins.
Next episode, we're gonna talk how the Goblin Slayer, Master Chief, and the Doom Slayer are all the same people in different universes.
and their wacky antics. See you next time.